Hello and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to be talking about the big garden birdwatch that happened over the weekend. I took part on Saturday from about 10 past 11 to 10 past 12. I just thought I would do a quick video and tell you about my findings. So unless you don't already know, the big garden birdwatch is something that's set up each year by the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. It's a yearly survey, basically, to see how our garden birds are faring from one year to the next. And I took part in it last year. I think it's a very good idea. All it involves really is sitting down with a cup of coffee for an hour and just watching the birds that visit your garden. And in particular, the birds that land in the garden, so whether they're just sort of touching down to feed or whether they are landing in the garden for any other reason, but it doesn't include any birds that are flying over the garden. So these are birds which are actually going to visit your garden, and yeah, you just watch them over the space of an hour. Last year was pretty poor. I watched for one whole hour and saw just one wood pigeon, which appeared on the fence in about the last 5 minutes or so of the hour. This year wasn't brilliant, but what I can tell you, in the time leading up to the hour that I set aside to watch the birds, there were lots and lots of visitors to the garden. And at one point I counted 6 collared doves, 3 or 4 wood pigeons, 3 magpies, 3 or 4 sparrows, a pair of great tits, which we quite frequently get in the garden, and around 4 starlings. On Thursday last week, when I was at home at lunch, I did actually see that we had a group of 4 long-tailed tits on the feeder, on my new feeder, which I did a video on previously. And there were also at the weekend a number of goldfinches up in the sycamore trees at the bottom of the garden, but they are technically outside of my garden, so they wouldn't have counted. But yeah, quite a few birds, and I seem to be getting more and more birds visit the garden, particularly now I've got this new feeder. I am looking to, later on in the year, get another one the same and put that up opposite the one that I already have on the post. And I'm hoping to get even more birds in the garden. But let me run through with you what I actually saw this year. Now, not a great amount of birds visited. It turns out that the average number of birds counted during the RSPB Big Garden Birdwatch is 27. And I actually got, for the 1 hour that I was watching the birds, I got 5, which comprised of 1 blue tit, 2 starlings, and would you believe 2 robins? Now, 2 starlings is quite an average score, it would appear. 2 robins isn't particularly average. I'm actually 1 above the national average there, because typically robins are quite territorial birds, and basically unless they are a breeding couple, they will fight for their territory. And the 2 robins that I had in the garden on Saturday, I've seen a number of times over probably the last 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm guessing this might be a pair that have hooked up and may even be breeding fairly soon. Hopefully, might even be nesting in my garden. I am going to be looking at putting up some new nest boxes this year to try and encourage a few birds to breed in the garden. So there we go. Yeah, I had 1 blue tit, I had 2 starlings, I had 2 robins. So not brilliant, but I did also notice that between about 11:20 and 11:50, So for a good half an hour or so, there was just no bird activity at all in the garden. But at 11:56, a cat jumped up on the fence from next door's garden. So I'm thinking it may be the birds had detected that the cat was just the other side of the fence, and that's what had spooked them from visiting the garden at all. But yeah, that's the results. So not too terrible, particularly when you look at the time leading up to the 1 hour. Not too terrible at all, and it's good to see that my score at least is better than last year. I have beaten my one wood pigeon score, but it's also good to see that we have recently had visiting the garden sparrows again, which I haven't seen for quite some time, and obviously we have two robins. Great tits are a regular occurrence in the garden. I think just after I finished the Birdwatch on Saturday, the great tits reappeared. They were there before the 1 hour watch, and they seem to be very consistent. Great tits actually, I had some great tits nesting in the garden last year. I think they may well nest again this year, so fingers crossed. But yeah, that's the results. I will leave on the end of this. You've already been looking at some footage that I filmed on the day. I will leave on the end of this video a little bit more footage of the birds feeding in the garden. But let me know how you got on if you did the Great British Birdwatch. The Big Garden Birdwatch, the RSPB Big Garden Birdwatch. Let me know what your results are. How did you get on? What did you see in the garden? But until the next time, I will see you soon. Bye now.